George Carlson's Puzzled Carpenter. When he died in 1962, George Carlson was a successful but largely anonymous commercial artist, remembered, if at all, as the man who designed the dust jacket for the first edition of Gone with the Wind. Since then, he has been lauded by notables such as Harlan Ellison and Martin Garner as a major 20th century illustrator, a gifted cartoonist, and what makes him relevant here, one of the best creators of puzzles for young people. Now, just to be clear, Carlson based his puzzles on older puzzles that we've, in some cases, covered here before by people like Sam Lloyd and Harold Dewdney. But he made them his own, and he presented them in such a charming and clever way that he's very fondly remembered. Take this one, for instance, the Puzzled Carpenter. The Carpenter has a hole, dimensions 1 foot by 6 feet, and a board dimension 1.5 foot by 4 feet, and he has to cut the board so that it can be, the pieces can be rearranged and fill the hole. The one extra condition here, and this is what makes it a tough problem, is that he can only cut the board into 2 pieces. So let's look at this for a second. That looks like a very challenging problem, but I think we can make it a little bit easier. First of all, let's think about just the basic geometry. First of all, if you look and you check, you'd see the areas are the same. Now the perimeters are different. That is a bit of a hint, by the way, because when you rearrange the pieces, you should be able to see why we are able to change the perimeter. But of course, cutting a board up and rearranging the pieces should never change the area. Let's look at it again. Does that information help? Yes, but not enough. You're probably still stumped. So let's take the next step. There's an excellent problem-solving technique where if you're stuck, if you can't go any further with a problem, try dropping one of the conditions and see if it's possible to get an answer if you leave one of the conditions out. In this case, let's drop the part about having to be only 2 pieces. Let's try cutting this up into 3 pieces. Well, for starters, we know that the cut-up board will only be 1 foot wide, so we probably should cut it vertically so one piece is 1 foot wide. That leaves us a 1/2 foot wide piece on the right. And since that one won't fill the hole, maybe if we cut it into 2, that'll work, yeah. We can rearrange those. See, we take those 2 pieces on the right and we put them on the bottom, and that fills the hole. Now, let's look back, try it with 2, and it still is kind of difficult. So I'm going to suggest taking our earlier technique even further. Let's try breaking this down into the smallest units. Let's try cutting up the board into, say, uniform rectangles, each rectangle being the same size and shape, and seeing if we can come up with a bunch of rectangles that we can rearrange. So for instance, if you look there at what we did before, look at those 2 small pieces we have there. What if we cut the whole board into pieces of that size and shape? In other words, each piece would be 2 feet long and 1/2 foot wide, and that would give us 6 pieces, right? Okay, so take a look at those 6 pieces. Now I bet you can figure out a way to rearrange those so they fill the hole, right? We just take those 6 pieces and we rearrange them so that it's 2 pieces, 2 pieces, 2 pieces, right? Everyone see that? Good. Now, take a look at that divided board and see if you can figure out a way to trace it out so that we could rearrange those pieces. Now keep in mind, notice how we have the middle part is divided into 2 pieces. Well, what if we did kind of like a stair-step design? Something like this. All right? You may not see it immediately, but this is the solution. Okay? We take those 2 pieces, We pull them apart, we move one down, and we push it back against the other, and we fill them in. All right, so let's, like we always like to do in these videos, let's step back and think about the problem-solving techniques that we used. First off, we started by thinking about the geometry. It's always helpful when we're doing a geometry problem, or in general, thinking about the math that's relevant to the problem we're doing. Then we dropped the condition that was giving us trouble and just tried solving the problem without it. Then we went further and tried reducing the problem to very simple units, specifically those 1/2 foot by 2 foot pieces that we could cut everything into. And then once we had that, we looked for a way that we could rearrange those so that they filled that condition that was giving us so much trouble, the condition of having only 2 pieces. Hopefully, this makes a little bit more sense now. As always, you can find lots of other puzzles, mathematical recreation, games, whatever, at the blog You Do the Math, K through Calculus, or the YouTube channel, You Do the Math, K through Calculus. And if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Thanks.